Welcome to ACP. ACP recycles CO2 or carbon dioxide and develops CO2 applications for industry and the food sector. CO2 is soluble in water and is used in soft drinks to make them sparkling and to prevent the development of mold and bacteria. CO2 is also used to cool and freeze foodstuffs. In the cultivation of plants, CO2 is applied as a nutrient to enhance the growth of plants in greenhouses. CO2 is also an essential component in water treatment. CO2 is used in the treatment of drinking water, swimming pool water, water used for industrial processes, and wastewater. Carbon dioxide is a natural gas that is present in the atmosphere. It is colourless and odourless. CO2 exists in liquid form, in gaseous form, and in solid form. CO2 in solid form is dry ice snow that can be compressed to ice blocks or pellets. One of the main dangers is a high concentration of CO2 in the surrounding air. Through a lack of oxygen, dangerous situations can develop. Here we will explain the possible effects. Concentrations of 0.5 to 3% increases the rate of breathing, heartbeat and blood pressure. Inhalation of concentrations of CO2 above 3% can cause in addition dizziness, nausea, queasiness and loss of concentration. Inhalation of high concentrations of CO2, above 10%, can cause suffocation through lack of oxygen and may result in death. A pressure thrust can be caused by a leak in a tank or tubing containing liquid CO2, the breaking loose of pipes, flanges or hoses that contain liquid CO2, the unintentional opening of a valve or connection while liquid CO2 is still present. A space where a lot of CO2 gas has built up will be very cold. Through condensation, a kind of mist can develop that limits visibility. The snow that develops from leaks of liquid CO2 is extremely cold, minus 78.5 Celsius. If you touch this snow with your bare hands, you can incur serious freeze injuries. Contact with the eyes is also dangerous and must be avoided. Therefore, always wear work clothing with long sleeves, safety goggles and safety gloves. Gloves must always be used when touching pipes and hoses because they are also very cold and can cause freeze injuries. Tubing through which liquid CO2 is flowing can come loose and be slung away. People in the area can be injured by this. To avoid this risk, the connections of pipes must be secured. Always attach the safety cables to the lorry. When the pressure in pipes decreases under the critical point of pressure and temperature, unwanted dry ice can be formed on the inside. This dry ice packs together to form a lump that can be projected outward through an opening in the tubing or hose. The force of this projectile may be great enough to injure someone. To prevent this risk, hoses and pipes must be made free of liquid CO2 before the pressure is allowed to decrease below 4.18 bar. You can do this by sending CO2 gas through the tubing while the residue of the liquid CO2 comes out of the tubing at the other end. This company does not have an ordinary work environment. Here we work with industrial gases that, depending on their nature, can involve certain risks. For general safety, and your own personal safety, it is therefore necessary that you strictly observe the applicable safety regulations and work instructions. They are explained to you in this safety film. Anyone who does not respect the rules will have to leave the premises. On the company premises, there is a general ban on smoking. Also, in vehicles and buildings, smoking is forbidden. Both the possession and the use of alcohol and drugs are forbidden. Access will be denied to persons who are under their influence. The maximum allowed speed on the factory roads is 20 km per hour. Children are not allowed, also not as passengers in vehicles. Do not enter the compressor halls. Only qualified people have access to these halls. On arrival, drivers must report to the weighbridge. If the lights are green, the weighbridge is free and you may drive your lorry onto the weighbridge. The driver must hold his badge in front of the badge reader. Only drivers with a badge may enter. Warning: this badge is personal and may not be used by other drivers. After you have registered, you must move your lorry to the parking lot. As soon as you enter the ACP plant, you must wear work clothing with long sleeves, long trousers and safety boots. Now you can go to the driver's room to log in. Use your badge to open the door. By placing the driver's badge on the badge reader, you can start and type in all requested data. Each time you must run through a list of questions. If you do not succeed, you must watch this instruction film again. After 3 failed attempts, your badge is blocked and you are given no more access to the company. In that case, contact the person in charge of your transport. Turn on the telephone that you are taking along. Note, this device has an emergency button. On the activation of this function, an alarm signal is sent to the Roquette emergency services. When all data is filled in, the system indicates whether you may load immediately or whether you must wait. If you cannot load immediately, you are placed in a queue. As soon as a lorry leaves the company and checks out, a place becomes free. It is reserved for 15 minutes. After that, you lose your place in the queue. If you decide not to load, you can remove yourself from the queue by placing your badge on the badge reader again and answering the questions. If there are problems with the system, do not hesitate to consult someone in charge or security. After registration, return to the lorry and weigh a second time. If the lights are green, the weighbridge is free and you may drive your lorry onto the weighbridge. Use the driver's badge for this registration. When the weighing is completed, you may drive onto the company site. For the carbon dioxide factory, follow the traffic signs with number 255. You can load at any available loading station. A green light means that a loading station is available. Do not forget to turn your motor off and to activate the handbrake before you leave your vehicle. Here, in addition to work clothing with long sleeves, long trousers and safety boots, you must also wear a safety helmet, safety goggles, a hearing protector and safety gloves. To secure your lorry during loading, you must place wheel blocks on at least one wheel. Start with the correct connection of the liquid and gas hoses. For this, fasten the nuts good and tight. Now you can open the gas valve on the lorry. After that, the liquid valve. The connecting hoses are now flushed for about 30 seconds. Afterwards, you must close the valve to the collecting receptacle again. Now go to the control screen on the loading dock. On this screen, you can enter the desired weight and start the loading. When it is started, an automatic gas retraction occurs and the loading process starts. This runs completely automatically. As soon as the set weight is reached, the loading pump stops and closes the valves at the loading station. This occurs completely automatically. If you want to interrupt the loading cycle, this is possible by pressing the emergency stop button. During loading, always remain in the vicinity of your lorry. When loading is finished, close the gas and liquid valves on the lorry. Warning: you may never load more than the requested quantity. Next, open the valves to the collection receptacle to free the connecting hoses of pressure. As soon as both pressure indicators show 0, you may disconnect the connecting hoses. Also be certain to check the hose along the side of the tank lorry. The manometer there must show 0 and therefore be pressure-free. This is a critical moment. If you do not do this correctly and carefully, an ice lump can form in the liquid hose during disconnecting and a projectile can come free. This is, of course, dangerous. It is therefore important that you immediately consult someone in charge if you have questions or doubts, or if there is the slightest incident. Use your mobile telephone for this. Ring number 8666 in case of emergency and 8806 for questions about the installation. After loading, when the light is green, you may drive onto the weighbridge again. Use the driver's badge for registration of the weight. Go to the driver's room to deal with the documents. Use your badge to open the door. Place your badge on the badge reader. Follow additional instructions on the screen. Do not forget to put the mobile telephone back. The transport documents are printed out and signed. One copy remains here. You take the other 2 copies for your employer and the customer. That's it. The loading procedure is finished. You can leave. If you do not wish to leave immediately, you can park your lorry here for a while. However, spending the night on the company premises is not permitted. If you notice a fire or emergency situation, you must notify the control room immediately. At each loading station and in the vicinity of the loading dock, emergency stop buttons are provided. Use this emergency stop button if there is an incident. The alarm that you now hear is an evacuation alarm. This differs from plant to plant. Act as follows as soon as this signal is heard. Stop your work activities. Leave the loading station in a safe condition. Go to the nearest assembly point. The assembly place is indicated by this pictogram. Wait there for further instructions. If gas is escaping, you must always evacuate perpendicular to the wind direction. If you have questions or doubts in connection with the execution of your work, do not hesitate to contact someone in charge. It is important that you understand and respect these instructions in the interest of your own safety, but also for the safety of us all. We wish you a safe work period at our company.